Did you have your wild card experience yet? Something totally out of the blue? Did something bring you to your knees? Did you have a shock? Have you had yet another dark night of the soul moment recently? Or maybe a rising phoenix kind of energy? Are you feeling raw, emotional? Do you feel like you're just holding everything or holding it all together? Welcome to Astrology Intuition with Amy Lynn, where I'm here to help you understand why you're feeling that way. It is the full moon in Scorpio. Every year during Taurus season, we have one ginormous Scorpio full moon. It always has an eclipsey kind of vibe to it, even though it's not an eclipse this year. Um, it just is a big emotional energy. Scorpio holds everything else, everything that we haven't seen or dealt with yet, or felt or learned, everything that's beneath the surface, all of that energy is held in Scorpio. Anyway, I bring you this podcast. I bring in the decades of experience I've had as a trauma therapist to help you understand how to work with these energies in a way that is for personal growth and transformation and integrating your experience into your wholeness, really. That's really what this is about. And I come to you on the new moons and the full moons because these are the times when our special close relationship with the moon matters. And I always think of it like the moon is bringing the conversation of the planets, who I think of as spirit guides or teachers, and bringing that energy down to us here on our little tiny blue and green marble to work with something bigger than ourselves, work with something that's galactic, universal. If you are here, you are probably interested in personal growth. You are probably doing some healing. So let's jump into this giant energy of the Scorpio full moon because I'm really excited to tell you a really specific conjunction that's happening exact with this moon that is a totally different direction, I'm thinking, than probably most astrologers are going right now. So let me jump into it. What I usually do is I'll give you some kind of broad energetic strokes so you can understand the feeling energetically of now and the next couple of weeks. It's about 2 weeks between full moons and new moons. So when I do the podcast, I'm sort of forecasting out a couple of weeks. And then from there, today I'm going to give you a little special lesson related to Chiron, actually. And then I'll give you the chart hotspots, which is going to be a way that if you are starting to understand how to work with astrology in your own chart, you can understand where to find the zodiac placements by degree in your chart and what houses that you'll be feeling these energies in and where you're kind of meant to be focused if you're working these energies on a spiritual or psychological level. After that, I usually will go through some real nerdy details at the end for those of you who want to track in a planner. And speaking of a planner, I am so excited to tell you about my planner that I publish. It's available for $28 on Amazon. You can find it by searching Astrology Intuition, and I will also put a link in the show notes here. But what I do is I put this together for you 3 months at a time. So it's a quarterly planner designed week by week. It has channeled astrology information from me, like totally written for you. And then it's put into a weekly format. So you can see the dates where things are happening. I try to keep it as simple as I can, but also super deep. So I put the biggest transits. I don't put every single thing, but I put the biggest things. And then I have call out pages where you can study the new moon, the full moon, the bigger cycles that happen with the lunar gestational cycle. It's a 27-month manifestation cycle you can use with the moons. And this version that's out right now, this is for April, May, and June 2026. It also has this awesome reference guide at the back that gives you the glyphs, and it has a page for the planets, a page for the zodiac signs, a page for the aspects, a page for the houses. It's an astrology book that's a reference guide forever. but it's also part of this timely planner. So this is astrology in real time, week by week. And it helps you start to understand how to work with this in your own chart. So I love it. I love it so much, and I really want you to get it. If you're here local to me in Colorado too, I have a handful of these at the Healing Center. You can come grab one. But they are on Amazon for $28 and you can have it in your hands in a couple of days if you're not here. So one thing I like to do when I'm talking you through the energies is just I actually use the planner myself when I'm talking to you on the podcast. Because what I have is at the top of every week, I have a sort of title for the week to give you a vibe of what's happening. So this past week, although it was mostly April, this little 2 days of May that we're in, this is emotional truth. Keep going. It's like stick with it. You've got this. This chunk of May is short, but holds a really powerful moment. This is for emotional clarity, and it does feel like the weight of a full week in just 2 days of May. Something beneath the surface becomes impossible to ignore. This Scorpio full moon has been illuminating a truth in a way that feels both revealing and raw. I just, that Oh, the rawness. I personally, if I seem a little disjointed, I totally am. I've been through a really extreme, intense personal situation. Everybody's fine now, but one of my kids was hospitalized for almost a week with an infection that was unknown for a while. He's okay now. We got the right antibiotic finally, but it was really, really scary and really a close call. So I'm just kind of coming back from crazy emergency mode. And I hope that those of you out here who've had big wild card energies did not get them at that level because that was freaking crazy. As a side note, if you are not partnered, I do not recommend partnering with somebody who has the exact same rising degree as you because everything that happens is double. We get hit so intensely when there's big transits, like Uranus moving into Gemini was a big one, or actually ending its time in Taurus, I think is really what that was about. But anyway, so um, when we have full moons, there's always like every full moon has a release energy or like I mean, some full moons are more like falling down at the end of a marathon, and other new moon or full moons are like squeezing something through a filter, and other full moons are like, here, let me just dump every single thing out all over the place, and you have to figure this all out. So, but full moons can be also very relieving because it's like the intensity's over. It's like we got through it and now we're on the other side. We can sort of exhale and we can um like the light of the moon actually starts to soften. It's not as bright in the sky. It kind of has that like culminating crescendo moment of brightness where I can never sleep that night. And then it starts to darken again. And that's kind of how the energy goes too. So the nice thing is once we get past May 1st and 2nd, then we get into a nice little week. The week of May 3rd, hold steady and detach from ego. There's actually a lot happening. There's a quieter but an important shift that week of May 3rd as the energy begins to turn inward and recalibrate. There's a very inner recalibration situation you're going to be going through. You're going to be asked to detach from ego as best you can. Try to get altitude, try to get perspective. Use your tools to be an observer, be a witness, be a spectator to your life and your feelings. Don't believe everything your brain tells you. Believe almost nothing actually of that. There will be a last quarter moon at the end of the week. It's on Saturday, May 9th, which is another point of reflection and release. So, what's awesome about this planner, I'm not going to go into this today because I don't have as much time, but the planner gives you the dates and the details in your chart of how to work with these longer lunar manifestation cycles. So, when we have a last quarter moon, which we have every 4-ish weeks. So there's always a cycle ending. That connects to a broader 27-month period of time where there would have been a new moon 27 months prior to the last quarter moon. This one is in Aquarius. So this would have been about a new moon that happened in Aquarius. I guess I am. I'm just going to tell you. On February 9th, 2024 at 21 degrees. So something began then. And what's neat about these cycles is that you can track every 9 months, there's kind of a choice point or a pivot or a check-in or a piece moves forward in that 27-month manifestation cycle. So I think it's really fun when you're learning this to start with the last quarter moon, because then you're not having to wait 2 years to figure out how this works. You can go back in time and look at those 4 dates. And again, in the planner, it shows you how to do that. There's special call out pages for the lunar gestational cycles. Anyhow, um, so also I want to tell you about that week, generally speaking. Another thing to think about is we are in Taurus season. The sun is in Taurus. It's an earth sign. So there's a slowing, there's a pacing, there's a different, like all the Aries fire zooming kind of energy, while there's still a lot of planets in Aries. And now we have Uranus and Gemini, which wants to just like shoot off like a rocket. Um, the Taurus energy is keeping us here and steady and present and as grounded maybe as is possible. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you about? Um, it's not a week for a forward push, the week of the third. It's a week for thoughtful reorientation. I feel like there's a lot of space for insight when you're just kind of holding back and waiting and not making moves. Distance, um, pattern recognition. These are like some ways to focus your energy, allowing yourself to observe without reacting. And what you release through this kind of full moon aftermath, it really does create space for what is more aligned to take form in this kind of new earth energy that's coming through with this new 7, 8 year cycle of Uranus and Gemini and this minor grand trine we're moving toward in the summer. The week of May 10th, this is about deepening subtle energy alignment. There's a Mercury cazimi that week, which is a renewal of Mercury. To me, it's a very psychic time. The week of May 10th settles the field after so much intensity and movement and asks us for something more embodied, more deliberate, real, and based in the truth of your subtle energy field. So I want you to really be paying attention to the quietness of the energy space that's within your body and around your system, out of the mind and into the energy field. There's like constant soft frequency pulses and data points you can gather through your sensory experience or your somatic awareness of your field that holds so much more pure wisdom than what your thinking mind is going to like translate and distort. How many times have I said it today? Do not believe your brain. Do not believe your brain. So that takes us to the next time I'll be back, which is the 16th of May for the Taurus new moon. That will be happening at the very end of Taurus, almost 26 degrees, which is going to be interesting because that's where Uranus just left. And this is kind of our first lunar cycle that we're getting to feel Taurus, Scorpio, that axis in the zodiac without Uranus fucking with shit there. So, anyhow, I think I'm going to keep that open. There's other stuff I want to tell you there. So, okay. I see the full moon energy as giving us kind of um like the everythingness, and if we can like sort it, it gives us kind of the shape of the next couple of weeks. Especially Taurus, Scorpio, it's very much like getting the shape of it. It's not um precision information. It's just like the general outline or something like that. Um, I think a lot about the parable of the three humans and the elephant and kind of touching the side of the elephant. And depending on if you get the ear or the butt or the tail or like where you're touching, it's hard to really know what the whole thing is. And there's some of that energy happening right now. So don't jump to conclusions. I probably have said that a couple of times today too. This full moon is very complex. So there's a lot of, I think it can be experienced very, very differently. That's always true, but based on your chart. But Scorpio energy is complex in and of itself, and it's super deep. There's like more layers. There's always another layer of the onion with Scorpio energy. So try to just keep sitting with what comes up and what is happening. So a big thing, actually, I forgot to do this last time. I'm sorry. I'm going to share the chart of the moon. This is in here in Colorado. The rising sign will be different if you are in a different location. But here for us, it's at the 0 degree point of Leo, which is another initiation point. Um, what I really feel here is really calling the most to me is the energy of Chiron and Mercury because they are in an exact 27 degree, 30-minute conjunction, just exact with this moon. So that is really getting my attention. And another reason it's getting my attention is because Chiron is, so anytime any of the planets are getting to the end of a sign, especially outer planets and asteroids that spend a long time in one sign, as they get to those final few degrees, it's just very potent. It really pulls attention and pulls focus to what's happening there. And because Chiron has been in Aries since 20, oh, God, I forgot. I'll have to look this up for you. I'm not totally on my game because of what I've just been through emotionally. I'm actually recording this really late at night, which is also not my best timing, but I wanted to get this to you with the moon. Um, so I think 2018. I think Chiron's been there since 2018. Um, but there's been so many other things happening. You know, I've talked about the Aries 0 degree point 100 times. There, we just the you can go back and listen to the last podcast about the new moon in Aries, all the other planets that have been there, and the fact that Chiron has been just sort of like placeholding, like kind of moving through Aries first and dealing with the healing and the transformation energies through the like kind of transforming ahead, letting the wound lead is kind of how I think of it. Like I actually think I love that Rumi quote, the wound is where the light enters. That to me has been Chiron going first through Aries before Saturn and before Neptune. So there's something very extra potent about Chiron in this kind of leadership role. Personally, and in my healing, in my professional work, I do a lot of intuitive energy healing type of work. And I feel Chiron come in like the being of Chiron, who was a pseudo centaur. People say he was a centaur. He was actually like a deformed half man, half centaur combination. He's unique. He's not a normal centaur because of the circumstances of his birth, his conception, actually. And so he's very gentle. He's very sacred masculine. He's like a quiet, paternal, patient, loving. Like he's so loving and so present and so patient. I love him. I love working with him. Um, he's definitely a spirit guide for me. And anyway, I think that he can really speak to you from the place in your chart where he lives. And so I'm going to make time. There will be a link below. You can sign up for a Chiron reading with me. It will be a recorded reading where I have your detailed chart and your birth information. And I'm going to look at where Chiron is in your chart. I'm going to talk to you about the influence of Chiron and how to work with him as this really loving, kind, beautiful, amazing transformation guide is really how I think of him. Um, just to go deeper with it. But here's what I really want to talk to you about because I just don't know if anybody's really talking about this much. And being that I am turning 50 in 2 months from tomorrow, it's the first time I've said that out loud. Um, that means that I'm going to be having my Chiron return. Chiron returns in 50 and a half, 51 years or so. And so it's a very, it's a long haul to get to that Chiron return. But what's really fascinating and what I've, in my astrology school, I've taught lots of classes and workshops going deep into the Chiron myth and history as an asteroid and what we're learning about Chiron in astrology, because the ancients did not know that Chiron existed. So Chiron is a new modern planet. We say planet, it's an asteroid, actually a comet asteroid hybrid if you want to get nerdy. And I feel like there's kind of a generic, there's always a sort of Chiron is the wounded healer, but the myth is so much deeper than that. There's so much with it. And what I really want to talk about today as hopefully a unique angle here, because Mercury is pulling our attention to Chiron with this full moon. So we know that Chiron has something to teach us and something to guide us toward now in this timeline of the next couple of weeks. Um, Chiron was discovered November 1st, 1977. So, when Chiron was discovered, he was in Taurus at 3 degrees and 11 minutes. So, we have never, as a society, even as astrologers, lived through Chiron in Aries consciously or in any other sign, uh, you know, uh, like we just are finishing. So my point is the if this makes sense to you, the return of the discovery date of Chiron is coming in a year. And it just has me thinking, like, wow, how fascinating that Chiron has been moving through Aries and it's still such unconscious energy because we have never lived through or understood a period of time when Chiron has moved through Aries before. We're living it in real time. We're like down here in the pain of it, in the wound of it, bringing everything to consciousness. I think it has so much to do with what's happening in the greater collective right now. I actually have some notes I want to track here to make sure I'm telling you um, specifics. Okay, yeah. So just for a little bit of history, because I think this is fascinating. When planets are discovered, there's always this sort of like zeitgeist energy of like what's in the collective at that time. How was it discovered? How was it named? It's fascinating to me that like normal scientists discover these things, but then they use these mythological names and they all connect to the astrology somehow. It's like so, it's fascinating. But there's also kind of an imprint in the generation of people who are born around the time of that. So if you were born in the mid to late 70s, even early 80s, you have Chiron in Taurus. Actually, that's going to be 19 mid 1975, I think, and later. Um, But there's something about our generation being so much here to heal. Like, I don't, I'll just kind of, I'll leave it at that. But I think it's fascinating. I think we kind of, what are we even? We're like young Gen Xers, we're grand millennials, whatever. We're sort of the in between lost micro generation or something between the two, but we're very chironic. We don't like literally even that is chironic. Chiron was rejected at birth. So there's like a rejection and an abandonment energy that's the lower vibration of Chiron. And like here we are as a generation of those kind of late 70s babies where we're like, I don't even know where I fit. I don't even clearly feel like I'm one of those generations or the other. It's kind of like the lost children. So, um, just for a note too, going if you want to kind of go deeper into study of Chiron and Aries and the idea of this, the last time that Chiron was in Aries, which we didn't know about Chiron then, but we can kind of look back and do historical astrology, was 1926 to 1934. I find this fascinating because think of the wounding and the collapse of the Aries energies that were happening as Chiron moved through that period. That was the Great Depression. That was a stock market crash. That was an activation of the survival wound that we are still there's still reverberations of that survival wound and the epigenetics that came from that time period and the World War that came from that time, World War II. It was also the early rise of fascism. It was the early rise of identity politics. So I just feel like all of that has been unconscious in the same way that we were unconscious to Chiron existing in the solar system at that time. And so the unconscious element here, I'm tying this back, and this is like really high level complex astrology, but I'm trying to tie the dots together here for you. So Scorpio brings the unconscious to the conscious. And here we are at the Scorpio full moon with Mercury, the mind, connection, perception, connected in an exact conjunction down to the minute with Chiron at the tail end of Aries, just before we're starting to get to Chiron's return home to that discovery point, which I'll get to in a second. I just think this is fascinating. There's like 100 more. I could probably I could teach a college class on this topic alone. But then what I want to think about is what was happening in the 70s in the cultural context when Chiron was discovered. It really was truly the emergence of early trauma psychology and the wholeness wound, which there in Taurus, there is a feeling like to me, Taurus connects to self energy and self-value, self-worth, wholeness, like that kind of stuff. Um, anyway, I always want to try to give you some actual history and some notes. So I will tell you that in 1977, Chiron was discovered and named by Charles Cowell, who was an American astronomer. He was in near about an hour south of San Diego, and he was searching in the solar system, realized Chiron was this kind of comet asteroid hybrid and had a very strange and erratic orbit. It actually, um, it's not a perfect circle to make it simple, and it orbits between Saturn and Uranus. And because of this erratic orbit and the kind of oddness of it, he named it Chiron. More so, I don't know how much he knew about mythology, but knew that it was a centaur and had that kind of ruckus, I'm going to go my own way kind of energy. I also think it's fascinating that Chiron exists between Saturn and Uranus and actually crisscrosses over their orbits. And is kind of like this bridge between the two, which here we are living out. We have all the Saturn energy because of that Saturn-Neptune conjunction we had in February. And now we have all this Uranus energy because of Uranus moving into Gemini. I mean, both of those are huge, rare things that are happening. And Chiron's still just kind of quietly, like in this, the way that I feel him, just this patiently just sitting, waiting for us to kind of put these pieces together. Anyway, so Chiron was actually retrograde when it was discovered. Now, it's not like they were applying astrology that day, but Chiron was retrograde at 3 degrees and 11 minutes of Taurus at discovery. So that will be the return degree. And I did look this up for you. So first of all, I want to tell you, um, Chiron is moving on and we'll be moving into Taurus very soon. This summer, June 19th or 20th, depending on where you are, Chiron will leave Aries and enter into Taurus for the first time in 50 years. And for the first time since we've discovered Chiron, okay? So this is huge. He's starting to move into that return territory. It's also the day that Uranus will square the nodes. There's just a lot. There's a lot going on right before the summer solstice, which is June 22nd this year. Chiron will only stay in Taurus until September 19th of 2026 and only gets to 52 minutes, not even to 1 degree. And then we'll retrograde back into Aries, so we'll still be doing a cleanup job for a little while. Chiron will then re-enter Taurus in a year, April 15th, 2027, during Aries season, by the way. And then we'll have its exact return to that discovery degree on June 10th, 2027. So to me, this moon, I know this is like a lot to tell you about this moon, but Scorpio full moons are a lot. So there's something in this year of time that we have, and we're going to start to experience Chiron moving into Taurus and coming closer to that return of the discovery point, which is to me like there's going to be so much more consciousness around survival wounding and around people living from their pain and not their wound. And I know those of us in this world know this stuff and we're tired of thinking about it and hearing about it, but there's going to be something in the collective that comes home that completes. I'm really excited about this. And I think that a huge piece of this is all of us living our own Chiron placements in our chart to their highest vibration. So that's why I'm setting up these Chiron readings. And by the way, I kind of half talked about that. I'm going to have much more information for you, videos about Chiron, like some separate teaching videos that will be included as separate recordings sent with your reading. So you'll get all this Chiron stuff generally, and then you'll get a separate 30-minute or so reading from me looking at your chart specific about your Chiron energies. So that link will be below in the show notes, and that will not be available super long. So if you're hearing this in the future and you really are interested, just reach out to me. I'll see what I can do to get that for you. Okay. I just think, and those like my microgeneration, people who are going to be starting to have your Chiron return personally, it makes like I'm crying feeling into that. Like there's something so big about kind of like the soul level volunteer job that we took to come in that micro pocket and to focus on healing and like using our own transformation and healing to help the greater whole of society to do healing work in this world. I don't know. I don't have like a fully formed thought about that. So let's see. What I really want to do here now is just going to give you your chart hotspots. I think I'm going to keep it simple and not go into all of the transits beyond that because you literally can order this planner for nothing and it has every detail in there that you would possibly need. Oh, you can also do my Substack, which is only $11 a month. And I literally give you every single day of the month for the month ahead with the specifics of the transits and the energies. I'm a little bit late getting May out because of our family emergency crisis, but that will be coming out this weekend. And it's a great way to kind of learn. Like I always tell my students, learn the astrology by living your life. But if you're ready for these hot spots, what I like to do is to give you the degree points where things are happening so that you can look at your chart and have more consciousness to where energies are working with you. Okay, like I don't have them all here, but so we have where the full moon is happening, which is 11 degrees of Scorpio. Anytime I give you zodiac degrees, we're always talking about the axis, the two zodiac signs that are across from each other, and the two that are squared, and they're always going to be in the same modality. So mid degrees of the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, is where this full moon is really revealing things or asking you to dig deeper. Pluto, I didn't even talk about this yet. On May 6th, Pluto is going to station retrograde. That is a pretty big deal. We usually feel that one. It happens once a year, there's a station direct, and once a year, there's a station retrograde. Pluto has a very long 250-year orbit. So it only moves a couple few degrees in a year and then backtracks again, and it's very slow moving in that way. But Pluto stationing, we're already feeling that energy, and Pluto is the modern ruler of this Scorpio full moon. So that's also another thing bringing our attention. And Pluto wants transformation, and Pluto wants it in the way of like digging out. I mean, it's so crazy to me. There's so many metaphors I haven't even integrated and that you've thought of yet, but like my son's infection, like to get that out, to clear out the low vibration, the toxins, that energy is really what Pluto wants to happen. It wants to uncover things. It wants to investigate. It wants to rise things up to the surface, bring them up and out. And Pluto is stationing retrograde at 5 degrees of Aquarius, which is as far as Pluto's gotten into Aquarius ever in our lifetimes. So it's like this new territory. So that part of your chart is really getting churned. And that's also a fixed sign. So it's the same thing. It's the same general part of the chart that kind of, I'm going to say like from like 4 to I don't know, 14, 15 degrees of all those fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, There's so much uncovering and churning there. So it's really important. Like what I like to do is print out my chart and I'll like draw the lines across, like showing me like how does that overlay my chart. And then you can kind of feel it more. It's okay if you understand all the specific chart placements and how to work in that way, but sometimes just putting the visual of like crisscross and drawing it on your chart just gives you like, oh, okay, that's where like surgery is happening. We also have a lot happening at the end of Taurus because that's where we're going to have this Cazimi and new moon cluster coming at the end of the month or at the in a couple weeks. We have, of course, the beginning of Gemini. It's huge. Sun has been there for a while. She has a very, very long orbit, 11,000 years, takes forever. So she's just hanging out there asking for deep surrender in the beginning of Gemini. But at the same time, Venus just had a conjunction with Uranus there. And, well, actually, they had their conjunction at the tail end of Taurus and then both moved into Gemini together. So, Venus is there. She's kind of bringing some softening to all the like zappy new energy. Uranus is in the early degrees of Gemini in this kind of new era vibe, like what's coming, the future's here kind of energy. So that's really big. Um, let's see what else. I told you about that last quarter moon that's coming up, and that's also happening in Aquarius. Excuse me. Let's see. I just passed my own page where I have that. Here we go. It's happening at 19 degrees of Aquarius. I mean, it's like a huge chunk of the fixed signs is really getting it. Um, Another thing we have happening is Mars squaring Jupiter, which is really interesting timing because Mars is the ancient ruler of Scorpio. So it also has like a bigger presence and a bigger voice. And then where Mars is in Aries right now and will be squaring Jupiter in Cancer, which is squares can be really difficult. That's not like the hardest, ugliest one there is, but it does just kind of cause some um, like push pull energy, like being pulled in two directions. An Aries direction and a Cancer direction are very different. So that'd be another place in your chart to be looking at feeling kind of stuck between a decision or having an energy. Like if you have strong Cancer, you might have someone with strong Aries kind of squaring off with you. Like it might be an external thing. But I really think that this one's going to be, um, it's good. There's like such a quiet, maybe not quiet, internal, I guess is the word I want, like an internal transformation process that's happening with all the churning and all this Plutonian, scorpionic, Chironic kind of energy that's happening that I feel like that one is going to be um, using anger as wisdom to heal your heart, something like that. It could be like a positive of it. Setting better boundaries so that you're not leaking your energy. Cancer has that energy leak thing going on. Um, anyway, I hope you're okay. I know it's just like I just I'm very casual about how I do my podcast always, but I know I'm like very raw and kind of dysregulated still right now. So I appreciate you kind of tolerating me just being who I am and showing up how I'm showing up. Um, I'm just going to also always give you the reminder to use your external tools. You know what I'm sitting here with? I have my PEMF. I have like a red light PEMF belt that I can like wrap around with heat. I have been wearing that. I have my tinctures, my inner child tincture. I have my flower essences. I have my rose oil. I have my ancient stones deck. I have all the things. Like I need all the things right now. Support, get support any which way you can. And hang on, there's like just a never-ending amount of energy happening this year. And we're just in it. We're in it together. It's not gonna slow down. That's not happening. So whatever you need to not completely decompensate, do that. I will see you back here in 2 weeks. I say this every time, but it will probably feel like a new world and a new sense of reality in 2 weeks from now. And I hope that you can stay close to your heart, keep yourself as regulated, breathing, embodied, using your five senses to be in presence as much as you can, using all the tools. Honestly, connect with Chiron. He is such a sweet, loving, wonderful guide. You can just meditate, drop in, and invite him into your space, into your own circle to sit with you and help you with any healing or transformation that you may be dealing with that you want some support with. That's my wish for you is to get support from Chiron. Reach out, grab a reading, grab the planner, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for being out there.